The Mid-America Veterans Museum is a 501c3 nonprofit business. The museum would not exist without the donations of our generous community. Your donations ensure the museum continues to share and preserve the stories of our veterans. To donate, visit mavm.org and click on Donate. The information, opinions, and recommendations presented in this podcast are for general information only. The primary purpose of the Operation Insight podcast is to educate. The views, information, or opinions expressed on the Operation Insight podcast are solely the views of the individuals or guests involved and by no means represent absolute facts. Operation Insight does not accept responsibility for their views or comments. The Operation Insight podcast may at times cover sensitive topics, including but not limited to suicide, abuse, violence, severe mental illness, sex, drugs, and alcohol addiction. You are advised to refrain from watching or listening to the Operation Insight podcast if you are likely to be offended or adversely impacted by any of these topics. Neither the company, host, director, or the guest shall at any time be liable for the content covered, causing offense, distress, or any other reaction. Welcome to the Operation Insight podcast from the Mid-America Veterans Museum with your host, Jason Galvin, and co-host, Sergeant Ethan Gross. Welcome back to the podcast, family. We've got a special guest in our studio today. Ethan's good to see you. And why don't you tell us a little bit about our guest?
I'd be happy to. Tonight we have the pleasure of speaking to a friend of mine, full disclosure, Staff Sergeant Chris Munro. And that's Munro, that's not Monroe, like the president. We'll make that distinction. Chris served in the Reserves and National Guard from 1997 until 2016. And then for some reason he decided to re-enter, and he made the decision to go active duty. We'll have to ask about that later, Chris. But he re-entered in 2019. A large portion of the time that has been spent active duty has been with the 82nd Airborne. So, Chris, thank you for being here. It's good to see you, as always.
Thank you for inviting me.
And I'm
back, so
yeah,
that's good.
Yeah, Chris, in the winter, Chris was kind enough to be a guest for our Veterans History Project that we run here through the museum. So, yeah, it's good to have you back, Chris. This is a bit of a different format. Chris and I have been talking a few days ago about kind of what this would look like. And I've been trying to figure out how I want to frame this interview with Chris, and he actually helped me quite a lot. And this speaks, I think, volumes about Chris as a person and just his character. Chris had told me that I want the interview to be fun. And I want to have fun. I want to tell funny stories. And the thing is, Chris has traumatic stories that he could share. And Chris has seen some shit. Yet he wants to just have a good time. And that's kind of the person I know. I'm trying to think back to when I first met you, Chris. Chris is so weird. I'm just going to call you Munro. That's what I'm used to.
Go with it. I wear it every day. It's all right.
But as best as I can recall, it was at Fort Bragg. We were both in the 82nd at that time.
Over Gray Falcons.
Gray Falcons.
Yep.
The best I can recall is, honestly, my reaction after I met Munro. And my reaction was, now there's a St. Louisan. He makes a friend out of anybody. He's a great person. He will help you whenever you need. He's a great support. But another thing I wanted to say about Munro is, and I think this kind of characterizes him pretty well, he's the kind of guy that you want on your team. He is not going to complain. He is going to fight through the pain, and he will also buckle up and do what is needed, no matter what. I've seen this personally. So anyway, Munro, it's good to see you again. Thanks for being here.
And Chris, it's nice to meet you, man.
Yeah. I love coming back to St. Louis. Of course, being at Bragg, you miss things, everything from gooey butter cake to Jack in a Box. There's just things that you don't get out there. And every time I come into town, I try and at least stop and have a coffee with Ethan. And when he invited me to this the first time, I said, sure. When he invited me to be part of the podcast, I said, yes, absolutely. because I want to support him. I want to support the project whenever possible. To me, what I've always done, what I've always tried to do with the military, kind of playing off of what you had, is, yes, I've seen some tough things, we'll say, but my thought process has been, since those tough, terrible days, is you can only complain to your worst day. And I've had some really bad days. So when you come up to me and this is flying off the handle, that's flying off the handle, and they walk up to me and, chaos is happening and ensuing, and I've got a big smile on my face, and maybe we've been up since 3 o'clock in the morning, or maybe we're staying up till midnight, and I still got a smile on my face, because nobody's trying to die on me. It's okay. We'll figure it out. We'll make it happen, whatever needs to be done. And that's just how I've always looked at it. Now, on the converse side, I was in school, I was in training. Me already being, a medic and an x-ray tech and all the other things that I've already been with the National Guard and Reserve, I came back into school to learn signal. I am a signaleer. The commander's voice is the term that we use right now. And there's a kid, he's crying. Now, he's 18 years old, a young man, and he's crying. And there's a sergeant trying to light him up, just, why are you crying? Tearing into him. And he's a prior service guy like me, seen some stuff probably, and I pull him away. I pull him off the guy, and I take him to a side, because you don't address another peer in front of the junior enlisted subordinates, whatever the case may be. And I said, look, man, maybe his roommate came in at 2 o'clock in the morning, and he couldn't get back to sleep. Or maybe they didn't have bacon at the chow hall for breakfast, and now he's crying because he just failed a test. Now, at 18, coming out from home to this military lifestyle, that might be the worst day that this kid's ever seen. Yeah. And let him have the cry, okay? Maybe his life's been blessed that much that this is the worst day of his life.
Bacon did it. The missing bacon.
The missing bacon was just I failed a test, no bacon, the world's coming down.
The bacon couldn't be that good.
It's not. It's just that much better than every other thing. So.
I got you.
But it's like, when you're toughened, when you're hardened, when you've seen some things, you want to look down at those people that detract from such little minuscule things, and you go, no, you can't come down on them like that. They just haven't been where you've been. They haven't seen what you've seen. And yeah, that means very little to you in the grand scheme of things, but you got to let them have it if that's all that they know. If that's the worst that they've got, let them have it, and then you can guide them from there and go, look, man, I'm not trying to one-up you, but ain't nobody dead on the side of the road today, so how about we cheer up and go get some BLT for lunch, and we'll make it all right, okay? So, we can work around it. We can help you get through this, because I've been through so much more, and that's how I've tried to go at every day in the military, no matter what the case is. Just, I've seen worse days. I can make it through whatever day between here and there. This
is one of Munro's superpowers. It's perspective and a measured approach. He's also someone that, and I'm not exaggerating when I say that everyone looks up to him. When I was still in the unit and I saw him on a pretty regular basis, every time he was either leading soldiers, he was mentoring soldiers. Soldiers would come into him asking questions because they knew he had the answer. Let's backtrack a little bit, Munro. Sure. So obviously a St. Louisan through and through. Tell us a little bit about growing up in St. Louis and your background.
Okay. My father is a second generation to be born outside of Scotland. His dad was born in Nova Scotia. And if you can check it out, my family is Collinsville, Illinois, in Edwardsville, in these areas. They own farms. My grandfather went forth and prospered. He had 13 children.
Wow.
So back in the days, of course, not everybody lived, and they were not a rich family. So my father was the last of 9 that lived through childhood. So all of my cousins and everybody's my dad's age, because there's a bit of a gap between A and B. Dad was, I'm betting, a surprise for everybody. But that's why he was in the St. Louis, Illinois area because of Collinsville. And my mother, my grandfather and my grandmother on my mother's side, I don't know how they ended up in St. Louis. My grandfather was a Maytag repairman back in the day and made decent money doing that. And parents came together in St. Louis. They lived a little in Illinois, a little here, born here. I was born in September, so as any good St. Louisan, the baseball game was on in the delivery room while I was being delivered. So that's how you do that. Catcher's mitt and all. And growing up, I'd say started off lower middle class. Mom worked her butt off. Dad did his best to torpedo all of it, but we slowly rose. My mother, when she retired, was a vice president of a small construction firm, and she's on a cruise right now in Alaska, and I couldn't be happier for her. So, she's a pulled her up by the bootstraps type of woman. But you put her in the woods at night, and she is going to be in a little ball until the sunlight. She is not a rough, tough type of girl. When gym class happened, she walked the track. She can't throw a ball down a stairwell. I wish I were joking, but I did not get much of my physicality from her, but I got a lot of the mental, a lot of the take a look at around you. Growing up in Afton, there was a school for developmentally impaired. And at one point, driving into school, it's a snowstorm. Like, my mom didn't even want me to get on the bus, and I usually walked. And she's like, I'm going to drop you off today, because it was bad, but they hadn't canceled because, diehard Missourians. It's a little snow. It's all right. So, but
they've changed.
Yeah, oh, yeah. But we were watching one of the developmentally impaired young men. He's older than high school, but he's walking to that school to learn how to function on his own. And she made sure to, you look at this. These people are fighting daily just to get by. And stuff like that stuck with me. I don't know why most kids just shake it off, but it's always stuck with me. And things like that is, my mother helped me with the mental side and the drive and the ambition and the look around you. Where my dad, he was the gift of gab. He could walk into a gas station and have a friend for life after 10 minutes. We could never let him go for more. It's like
he would be off time. Huh?
Yeah, it's like you have to just pay them and get back in the truck. You're gonna make us all run late. But yeah, he was the friendly, wants to talk to everybody. Never met somebody he couldn't be a friend with person. So I tried my best to develop who I am. Not all by my own choice, but really by taking the positives that I could from the people around me. It's been said by many different people, all of my successes are because of the influence of so many others around me. All of my failures are my own. Because every time I've screwed up, there's somebody in my head going, maybe you shouldn't do that. And I did it anyway, and there's my screw up. So, but I found myself in St. Louis. I love the town. You can be a broke family of 3 and have good summers, going to the art museum, going to the science center, the zoo that's free.
Yeah. True.
It's such a good family community for those that maybe aren't as fortunate, because you're getting the opportunity to appreciate things that when it's free, it doesn't matter how much money you have. The rich come there to enjoy, the average, the indigent, we're all in the same place. And I've always appreciated that about St. Louis. And I think that, again, helped me with so many other people going into the military, where we're all the same here. Let's be all the same. Let's get on the same page, and let's do whatever we need to do.
So let's get into that, actually. It's interesting talking about that story about your mom saying, look at that young man, look at him. He's striving for his education despite the tumultuous weather. My understanding, Munro, is that you weren't a scholar in school.
Well, yes and no. So I started off in Tower Grove Baptist School, because in the city, inner city school districts, not always the best education, we'll put it that way, at least back when I was a child. So my parents scraped and put together and sent me to the Tower Grove Baptist School. I was there through the 3rd grade. Now, I was a bit of a talker even at an early age. Dad's influence, I'm sure. And I would act out. ADHD, different things. But this was before everybody could diagnose it. Back at that particular school, you could get paddled, and I had been paddled, and that really didn't help anybody. But shortly after leaving there, I went into a public school here in Afton. That's where I ended up spending the majority of my childhood. I was a very intelligent child, but I just never related to the grades.
Sure.
Because there was a couple teachers that figured it out. Very few, and I hear nowadays that, you've got a different track, and they've got different schools and IEPs. I don't know what all this stuff means, but, they can kind of tailor your education.
Sure.
None of that was available to me, so they stuck me in remedial classes in spite of being...
Which probably only made things worse for you.
More boring.
Way worse. Like they were trying to reteach me math. For whatever reason, everybody in this class was terrible at math, and I'm like, we're well past this. What do you, so just I would bump heads more and things like that. But the good thing about my intellect was I learned how to game the system. I'd still be a bad kid. I got kicked out of class 9 times in a 7-class period day. I got let back in twice and kicked out again. I had the thickest disciplinary packet of the school in my freshman year. And one of the reasons why, and I still think this is the funniest thing, I had perfect attendance. So I acted out, and I was a terrible kid or whatever, but you couldn't keep me from school. So that was...
They were hoping you'd call out
yeah,
sick,
look,
but
please, give us a day off. By my junior year, because I would parade through the principal's office so much, and I will, if I was wronged, I will stand in front of her righteous as could be. Like, no, this is BS. And I walked into her office one time almost kicking in the door because I got kicked out of class for some BS. And she looks around me at the grown man in a suit, goes, could you step outside for a moment? Because I barged in. Well, the secretary saw that. I was like, gee, I wish I could do that with the boss, So by my junior year, they were like, encouraging me to come by and have some candy. We just want to see the fireworks, Come on by. So yeah, I learned how to game the system, and I would be just as much of a bad kid, but I found out ways to be bad within the system, and that's what I would do. I'd get out of classes when I needed to, but as stated before, I was never in fear or a chance of failing any class because I just aced tests. Yeah. That's all that they really had you do. I never did any homework. I just aced tests, and I can get B's on C's. I scored high enough on the ACTs to get some chances there, and I, of course, joined the military at 17 instead because I'm a brilliant guy.
So tell us about that. So the delayed entry program. So your parents needed to sign you up.
Yes. So I signed up probably September the year I turned 17. I went to my National Guard, or no, it was a reserve unit. I signed up to be an X-ray tech. I remember why an X-ray tech? Because I felt like we lived in a middle to upper middle class neighborhood, and I felt good about that. And across the street from us was a young couple raising a child. Both of them were X-ray techs. And I was thinking, you know what, I can make a life for myself. And at 17, you're not thinking family, but, you can see that that's making decent money. Yeah. Why not? And I had every first aid merit badge from the Boy Scouts from the start. Not so much to help other people, to figure out why I'm bleeding and fix myself.
I forgot I wanted to mention your militant. Yeah. Boy Scout.
Yes, we marched everywhere. We did columns. I mean,
they're partially to thank for you joining the military.
That was that and I had assistant principal in 5th grade while I was, still trying to figure stuff out. Was like, you need to send him to a military academy. It's like, I get sat down with my parents. They're like, you need to get him out of my school and send him to a military academy. Well, that didn't happen. Might have been different, but.
So you went in for X-ray tech.
Yes.
But if I understand correctly, that's not exactly what the Army had in mind.
So when you sign up for X-ray tech, the Army is one branch that has, I don't know the exact number, so we'll just call it box 34B in your packet of papers. Sure. And in box 34B, it says this is what the Army owes you.
Yeah.
Okay, if you go into the Navy, you have to go in, you have to perform as a sailor, and then you get to go to your Q course or whatever the case may be, where you learn your job and you get to test for your job. Sure. You get to show them you have the aptitude for that job.
That sounds like the Coast Guard.
Coast Guard's like this too.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm not entirely sure how the Air Force does it, but nothing's guaranteed to the Marines, Air Force, Coast Guard, Navy. Nothing's guaranteed, because if you don't pass that test, you're not going to get that job.
Sure.
Army's got box 34A, which is an empty box. And box 34B says if it's not in box 34A, we don't owe you a thing. So I put in, send me to X-ray tech school in box 34A. I join up. I join the Rolling W, 21st General Hospital off of, downtown. And I'm in this unit wearing jeans and a T-shirt for, almost 12 months, where I just show up. In this time of wearing jeans and a T-shirt, I get a little medal pinned on me, unit citation, for Vietnam.
Oh, boy.
So they were that long in getting it to us that in 97, 98, I got a Vietnam badge, which the guys nowadays think's the funniest thing ever, because I've got an award from Vietnam. They're like, "How old are you?" You know, but
at least your T-shirt was bedazzled at that point.
Oh yeah. Well, that's like, I don't know, punch it through the T-shirt. I don't care. But so I was going through there. I was learning what the job was, and the just monotony of a hospital on drill weekend is. You just want to bang your head. It's like, I feel like I'm a drain on the economy today, because they're paying me to be here and I'm not doing anything. Yeah. You get a couple training days in, but it's, a busy weekend is learning about equal opportunity, and, sure. This is a busy weekend. So
they had to come up with stuff.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. So it was rough. But I finally get to go to basic, and I have to turn 18 in basic. The reason being is if I screw up bad enough and I have to alter my contract, I can't go ask Mom to help me. I have to be 18 and figure it out myself. So I was the youngest guy in my basic training class. I became the first platoon sergeant, and they fired me halfway through because I was not giving anybody any problems. Like, you're doing this too smooth. We gotta get somebody that's going to cause problems. They're not learning anything by you making everything right. So, to become an X-ray tech, they make you be a medic first, because the dropout rate for X-ray tech is 1 in 3. The first day, they're like, look left, look right. One of you's not going to be here at the end.
Wow.
And what, it's 72 or something like that?
It's 72 weeks long is
the
X-ray tech school. So I went through back then, 10 weeks of basic, just striving. I was a cross-country runner before then. I was terrible on push-ups, but sit-ups and run, I was like, yeah, let's do this. I was all day. Hiking, all that kind of stuff, because of my militant wing of the Boy Scouts. Troop 200, love those guys. They're big in St. Louis. Had me ready to go with all that stuff. And again, I had some rough days with the Boy Scouts, so I was smiles and stuff going through rough days of basic training. Like, this isn't even that bad. I don't have a big kid trying to shove my face in mud. I'm happy. Nobody's throwing cow patties at me. We'll keep
somehow. I'm not sure you would be the poster child for Boy Scouts.
Yeah, no, probably not. He has all the first aid merit badges and nothing else because he keeps bleeding on people. No, that's not what anybody had in mind. But
they prepared you for the Army.
Oh yeah, they prepared me for the Army. I aced all the medical stuff, and I was a silver bullet shooter before, with the Boy Scouts. So rifle was nothing new to me. I went hunting with my father. I was pretty set to just run right into the military at a young age and you know, I had enough self-discipline and things that, you know, somebody staring at you, like boring a hole in your temple from the side, you don't look at him, you just keep looking forward. You know, little things like that was never been a problem for me.
So you weren't crying over bacon?
No.
Okay.
No.
All right.
But made it through basic without much problems. In fact, when I was done with basic, I was like, was that it? I feel like it should have been tougher.
And that was Leonard. That was Leonard Wood.
It was Leonard Wood in '97, so drill sergeants could lay some hands on you a little bit back then, and I still thought it was a little easy. Then I went to medic school, and everywhere, medic school looks a lot like this wonderful museum. A little plug for the museum. Get out here, check it out. It's got a lot of wonderful things everywhere. But everywhere in the medical world down at Fort Sam Houston, there is a plaque and a picture and the Bronze Star and the Purple Heart or the Congressional Medal of Honor or this and that, and they're on every wall in the medic school about some medic, because they're the most awarded MOS in the military as far as awards go. And they're everywhere. And you're this little just turned 18-year-old coming down the hall, and you got to stand by for the next 30 minutes because, you know, the next thing isn't lined up yet. So you get there early to stand by. And you're reading these things, and it's some wonderful man gets caught in a crossfire ambush in Vietnam where he gets shot, drags his butt over to somebody, patches them up, gets shot again, dragging himself over to a third guy and a third guy, and then, you know, lays on a live hand grenade at the end of it. And you're like, that's not me. I am not that guy. I'm never going to, I can't balance a checkbook. What are you talking about? You want to talk about motivated to learn X-ray? Yeah. I am not going to get knocked back down to here. I have no desire to be a medic at that point because they just scared the hell out of me. So I make it through medic school fairly well. I have always had a good ability to take the information and put it to use well. So we would, you know, I wasn't the best on the tests. I've never had any problems with the tests. I really didn't need to study much. But they made us do hands-on. There are different hands-on tests. You have to go through all this stuff. And I don't know how or why. They're like, you're going to be the guy that does all the hands-on in front of the class the one time you get to watch somebody before you test out, which is great for me because if anything I did wrong, I'd be there. But I am shaking. Yeah. I am not I had theater and stuff in high school, but this is, this is
a different type of stage fright.
I was the guy that ran the lights and microphones, and they put me on stage a couple times. And everything but threw up before I went out there, but sweating and everything. But so I'd have to perform and do these tasks in front of everybody, and I always did them well, always passed all the hands-on, but I just ended up being that guy over and over and over again. And I'm like, y'all got to find somebody else. My heart can't take this. I'm the youngest guy here, and I feel like I'm going to die of a heart attack. But, we made it through that. I studied my butt off in X-ray tech. You learn every bone, every hole in the bone, every ligament, every tendon. You know what it looks like on film. You know what it looks like when you turn it. And this is back with film, so you have to learn, microbiology. You have to learn step up and step down transformers, how they get the electrons over the anode. And it gets really tall grass real fast. And with 72 weeks of it, it's just, it's nonstop for 6 months of book work. And then once you pass the book work, it's 6 months of on-the-job training where you're just trying, it's the sad thing. You're trying to see people injured with every single part of the body so you can get an x-ray of it. So you can say, look, I know how to x-ray this part of the body. Because you're really not supposed to take x-rays of people's parts of their body that aren't injured. And you have to encompass the entire curriculum.
Because you're radiating their body.
Yeah.
You want to limit that.
You want to limit that. But
that's
I still have to finish the curriculum, and nobody broke their jaw, so I'm going to have to pull out this mannequin and try and get a jaw x-ray. And, that's the way that thing works. I went to Fort Carson, Colorado Springs for my on-the-job training. It was wonderful. Love that place. Yeah, so 10 weeks basic, 10 weeks was the medic school. I know it's a lot longer now, but it was a stop the bleeding, keep them breathing course.
Sure. Yeah.
And then 72 weeks of this. So I had a good conduct medal coming back to my unit for the first day after basic because I had already spent almost a full year in the pre-basic.
And you're not even at a unit yet at this point.
And then
it's all pure training.
92 weeks of this training, and now I'm back at my unit, and now I'm back to being, every day is just struggling to get through and doing the job and functioning like a full-grown adult at 19 at a hospital, and you get back to the unit and you're like, are we doing anything today?
No.
No? Okay. All right. Well, I'll be here till Sunday and mop with everybody else. We're going to mop it and clean it at the end on Sunday. So worked at Tenet, St. Louis University Hospital for a while there as an x-ray tech. In the evening shift, because one, I'm young and stupid, and two, because you saw everything. You did everything. You didn't wait down in your little office waiting for somebody to come to you. I would run over to the ER, take pictures of some gunshot wounds in the ER, bounce up to the OR, finish up a case that needed some x-rays up there, bounce back down, do a thing or two on the floor, and then run up to one of the bedside. I would do it all at times, and I enjoyed the pace, which is probably why I'm still in the 82nd Airborne. But that was an enjoyable thing. I've always been about having a good pace, and I always enjoyed when I walked through the door in the OR and the ER, the doctors and the nurses, you could feel like a little calm come over them because they could go, okay, I don't have to worry about x-rays today. And I liked bringing that to every place that I went. I want you to count on me to do my job, whatever it is, whatever it needs to be. And military helped me get that. The family helped me get that mindset and that mentality. And, rough living made it so that I didn't have that many bad days. So
that reminds me of a story that I've heard you tell about one of the many times you've been down at Fort Polk, now known as Fort Johnson. But the story about a ranger coming in your tent.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. So I volunteered because I'm a glutton for punishment.
Yes, you are.
My Rolling W 21st General Hospital went out to, Camp
Parks.
Camp Parks, yes.
California.
Camp
Dublin.
Parks, California, just outside of San Francisco. I was there for the first
X Games, right? Yeah.
And
sorry, I'm giving you answers for
please, thank you.
That's pretty cool.
I was for the first X Games because we got to go into the city for the 2 weeks there. I learned power and water. Now, you all have to learn something on those 2 weeks, and as an x-ray tech, I knew the medical side, I knew x-ray, so I learned how to run the generators and the pumps for the water. That was very good because my x-ray suite, which is a Connex that folds out, they can drop it from an airplane and all that kind of stuff, has its own generator and, thankfully, has its own AC unit because the film has to stay cool enough so that I can process it with the silver bromine and all the other stuff because nobody had digital back then. So I volunteered from Camp Parks to spend another 2 weeks with another unit that's supporting active duty personnel at Fort Polk. At the time it was Fort Polk. I don't know what they're always trying to rename stuff. So I somehow get on a flight to Dallas. They stick me on a flight, and it's me and 5 cooks. And if you want somebody to be your friend from your original unit, cooks are always a good choice.
Bacon.
So we get on the flight. We fly to Dallas, and we take a pond hopper from Dallas to Fort Polk, because Fort Polk's got this itty-bitty little airport right there where, the captain of the airplane's right in front of you, and, hey, y'all, we going to run into some turbulence as he looks over your shoulder at you because there's no
there's no PA system.
We're 3 across and maybe 7 deep. We're like, okay, man, you take care of business. And he's laying down there, and I take over the night shift for x-ray tech because there's 2 of us, and that's one of the reasons why they needed us because they want to run 24-hour ops, and having more than one helps out. So I work night shift because August at Fort Polk is so wonderful.
Sure, yeah.
120 degrees in the swamp. It's humid. It's terrible.
But hey, they got wild horses. That makes up for something.
Thankfully, we never saw them. But we set this up, and I am running the generator and the AC, and I have that beautiful little Connex at a crisp 66 degrees. So I set up my cot behind some lead things in that because they had an AC tent. Yeah, right. No. I set up my cot in that thing. And if anybody needed me for whatever reason, I was right there. It was my reasoning for staying right there.
Smart.
And I would sleep in there because it was the only cool place that I could actually control. And at one point, we had a ranger that jumped into Fort Polk, on their drop zone.
Sure.
He twisted up his ankle real bad. Now, he's coming in from the outside, a little stop in the ER to get this going. And they have AC units running through the ERs, but it's barely making a dent in the heat. And he comes around the corner and rolls up the little ramp into my domain, he just gives a shiver. Like, huh, because he's shirtless, he's been sweaty, all this kind of stuff, and that made my day. It's like, we're frosting out the Rangers. Yeah,
that's awesome.
That's good stuff.
That's awesome.
So yeah, it's. I've always tried to go above to what my little area is, so that I can affect my area from the next level up, so that I can make this better, or I can make that better. When I was in Iraq, I had a computer made and brought in so that I could burn CDs of your digital x-rays. So when you left, this is my idea of patient care. When you left, you had a copy of all the stuff, all the stuff we did to you. Your twisted ankle, your broken hand, all that kind of stuff. So when you go to get your VA benefits, you go, no, I was there. Look, here it is. And I was really trying to help out the soldier at that time. And it just so happened that while I was working as an x-ray tech there, now I've got my computer, my monitor, my everything. And while I don't have patience, I'm playing Star Wars on my computer because I've got arguably the most powerful computer in Iraq right now, running games and stuff and burning CDs because it's a medical piece of equipment right now, so I could send that stuff out. But yeah, I was able to affect my realm, but a little bit more from another angle to make it a little bit better. And then there were 2 x-ray techs. The other guy's like, I'm like, yeah, jump on, do whatever you want, play on the games. Because we'd see, on a busy day, we'd see 9 patients between 8 a.m. and 5 p.m.
Oh, wow.
X-rays, you want them, you don't need them for everything. You had a cough, take this. You don't need an x-ray. Now you come back 2 weeks later, you still got a cough. Maybe you got walking pneumonia. Let's get an x-ray. Let's see what you got. But 90% of the time, you don't need an x-ray to say, yep, you got a swollen wrist, or yep, you got a swollen ankle. If the mechanism of injury doesn't say you've got a broken ankle, we generally don't do it. If you can still walk on it, and we're not going to take an x-ray just to radiate you. So a busy day would be 9 patients. Normal day would be about 5.
Tell us about your ramp up to your just make sure everyone understands, 22-month deployment.
Yes. So
again, glutton for punishment.
Yes. So I was about to get out. In fact, I think I was 2 months into my ready reserve time. So technically a little break in service there. Mm-hmm. And I look around where I'm at, and I'm not happy with what I'm at and what I'm doing. I can be more effective. I can be a better person. And at the time, I was working as a medic up in St. Charles, or right down the road from, at Ameristar Casino, on the casino floors, working as an EMT and a security. And I'm helping some people out now and again, but I'm carrying chips to the pits more than I'm, helping out with injured or hurt people, and it's a rough environment.
No one's screaming medic on the floors of the casino.
They're coughing from those cigarette smokes, though.
Oh yeah, and if somebody goes down, I hand to God, I've seen it. Somebody goes down, they'll stand over them so they can they'll step over them so they can get to the slot machine. Like, could you step back so that we can help this person? No, I got money in this machine. It's, and you see everything there. You got the people that just turned 21 and, prom-like regalia coming in. And then you got this 35-year-old that's still wearing his high school T-shirt because he thinks it's lucky. I've got a guy that spends $30K a month, and they're going from ashtray to ashtray looking for a cigarette that isn't burned down so much so he can pop it in his mouth and get a couple hits off of it because he doesn't want to spend money on cigarettes. It's a wild environment. You see everything there. But, I enjoyed it. It was fine, but it
wasn't fulfilling.
It wasn't very fulfilling, and I got a hold of a National Guard recruiter. I'm like, hey, are you sending anybody over to Iraq anytime soon? And they're like, yeah. I'm like, sign me up. Let's go. So I get with my unit 3 months before they're set to deploy. Nobody knows me. These people have been drilling together for years, and I am this wild card. Who the heck is this guy coming in? And I don't tell anybody I'm an X-ray tech because I've spent the first 6 years of my career as a specialist, E4, which is as high as they can make you without really having to do anything, to be honest. Yeah. The next rank, sergeants and above, you have to perform. You have to go through board processes. You have to, show up, show out. And it wasn't that I wasn't doing...
Just laziness on the unit's
No,
part,
as an X-ray tech, there was 6 of us in the state. 1 E6, 1 E5, and the rest were E4s until one of them retired or died or whatever else. You didn't move up into that slot until somebody moved out, and then you got to pray that there wasn't somebody on the Illinois side that just had a few more points than you that could take that sergeant spot. So I didn't want anybody to know I was an X-ray tech. I wanted to get the opportunity to make some rank. So I spend 2 months drilling with this unit. I have my mother drop me off at the bus to drive us down to in the Iraqi conflict. I think it was at the time. I don't know if it was considered. It was a war on terror, but the conflict was still going, and there was a lot of stuff in the news and a lot of bad things happening. And I'll never forget. I look over at my mom right as we see the bus, and I tell her 2 things. Number 1, I won't ever let myself get captured because you see people, you've seen videos and stuff of what they did to the captured people. I don't need to go over that. And then I told her I won't ever get captured. And I promised her one other thing because I'm a glutton for punishment. I can't say I won't volunteer. I just won't be the first to volunteer. Okay.
At least you were honest.
Yeah, I was like, I'm probably going to do something stupid. So I went through all that, went to, we went to, Fort McCoy, Wisconsin, in one of the hottest summers to date, where we have engineers trying to make railroads passing out on the side of the road in their gear, and we're giving IVs. Like, we got some work in,
Practice.
Yeah, real good practice. And our little unit started to come together. Now, with me being the oddity, and 26, I'm not the youngest guy anymore. So, there was a lot of standoffish to me and who I was. And there was one other guy. His nickname was Moose. His name's Christensen. And me and him were both oddities. So we just kind of made friends. And he ended up being my roommate. And he was a weird dude. But
emphasis on the weird.
Oh my! He never really worked on patients. He would be the guy that would do some in processing for people that got to the fob, and he'd just walk around a little thing all day and just in process people. And we're like, do you ever?
I've been in process 3 times already.
Yeah, it's like it's all he did. He walked around with his little boonie hat and did that all day. He couldn't be happier. Whereas myself and the other people, we were decontaminating blister chlorine and mustard agent. We were, so much crazy stuff would come through our doors, broken ankles, stuff like that. We had a hospital just down the road, the Air Force Hospital. CT, all the good stuff. I mean, it was if you go back and you watch Baghdad ER, they would send people from Baghdad ER to that hospital because it was that much more well established. Sure. And we got this little clinic on post, and we have a little X-ray tech. We got good doctors. It was a blessing and a curse because every 3 months you'd get new doctors, because doctors would only have to be deployed for 3 months because their practice back home would take a hit if they were gone too long. You know, you got to be able to see patients. You got to keep your
Yeah.
patient load.
Yeah.
So they only give you 3 months. But I've worked with a proctologist. I've worked with one of my favorite doctors to work with, especially if you're ENT type stuff. I worked with pediatrics. And somebody come in with the crud. Everybody knows, because
Sure.
when you think of Iraq, everybody says, dust, dirt, sand. Sand is not it. And dust doesn't really do it justice. It's moon dust. It was the term we gave it because you could rub your boots together and form a little like typhoon or a little hurricane between your boots, just rubbing together, a little dust devil.
Yeah.
Because that's the birthplace, the cradle of civilization. And what made humans civilized? Mathematics and our ability to herd and develop agriculture. There's been goat and sheep shit on that ground since the beginning of man.
Yep.
So it is not dirt you're standing on. That's dehydrated, rehydrated goat and sheep shit. It is
Nice.
everywhere. And when that 1 week that it rains, it turns as green as Ireland because it's well manured. And it's
That's awesome.
it's the craziest thing. But yeah, that's what you'd get. So you'd get the crud, and he'd be talking to this badass E7, tattoos, and he's coming off the line to get some stuff, and he's talking to him like he's a child because that's how he talks. And he's looking at him like, am I going to have to hit this? He's like about to break the jaw of the doctor. And I'm like, no, it's okay, man. Just calm it down. Bring it down.
Yeah.
Because I got it. It's my patient. I'm like, can you just tell me what you want to give him and not get into it too much? Because he's going into like a child. Like
He's not offering lollipops or anything, right?
He did.
Oh, no.
He
boy.
had lollipops brought in from overseas so that he could do this. But it's like, it's okay, man. I'll explain later.
Yeah.
And, he leaves it like he's pediatrics. He's like,
Yeah.
oh. Like, yeah, that's the way he treats everybody. But this is the most sound advice you can get for if you're not feeling well, because kids are always sick. So
Yeah.
that niche is taken care of. I got to work with pain management doctor, Dr. Toombs, one of my, he's going to be in my mind on my deathbed because he's just made such a profound effect on my life and those around me. Because he helped develop the MACE Test, which
I was going to ask about this. Let's get into that. I was going to ask for you to give it to Jason and me.
Oh, sure.
I've never heard of it, so I'm very interested.
The military acuity concussion exam, at least that's how my mind.
We partially have Munro to thank for this. So the NFL has him to thank.
Well,
okay.
I was telling another medic friend about this, and I was not looking for. I've never looked for any accreditation for anything. I think Lieutenant Colonel Toombs deserves the highest award that America can give a soldier, hands down, because of how many lives he's helped save. But he's not a man looking for merit either. He's
Sure.
a guy doing his job. I, at 26, being one of the older guys, and my lack of give a care about your rank, because and Ethan will tell you,
I've seen it.
I foster a type of respect in whatever room I go into, whoever's in there, because of who I am and what I do. And I've got some awards to show that I've done some stuff.
More than some.
And
It's an impressive stack.
A captain can talk to me on the same level, and different people that a normal guy in my shoes may, I don't like talking to generals still. I try and stay away from general work every chance I can. But I've just been able to hold a conversation and be on the same level with people much higher ranked than me. Well, Lieutenant Colonel Toombs needed a racquetball buddy. And nobody wanted to hit the colonel with a racquetball. And I'm like, I am your man.
The only chance you get to hit him.
I am willing to thub that racquetball right off you if I have to. So we started playing racquetball together. And, when you're in an environment like that, and it's just you and the other guy, you get this camaraderie. Well, the other thing to pass time besides Guitar Hero in Iraq was floor hockey. It just so happened the mayor's cell was a bunch of infantry guys from Minnesota. And they had got some really shitty pads from the Minnesota Wild to play as goalies.
Okay.
They're really, but they sent them to us, so I have a lot of love in my heart for Minnesota, not more than, the Blues are still my team.
Yeah.
But
Don't be crazy.
No,
Yeah.
but
I don't go that far.
they sent us pads, and I am playing floor hockey in Iraq on this basketball floor, just smacking this little puck ball around. And again, I'm the old guy at 26, so after 10 seconds of running around, I'm tired and I want to get off the ice. I use my air quotes for the ice. And you step over that first row, and the second row is, air quotes again, the bench. So you'd run off and go defense, and somebody run in playing defense, and that's how you do your line changes. Well, I got this probably 19, maybe 20-year-old kid behind me. Kid at 26, I was calling him a kid. And he's younger than me, he's faster than me, stronger than me, and he's not winded after 10 seconds of running around. Why aren't you playing? So I go up to him. We're all wearing PTs. We don't, nobody knows really what anybody does at this point because it's all, physical training. And I said, hey, man, what's going on? Why aren't you playing? And he says to me, you're a medic, aren't you? I was like, well, yeah, okay, cool. Somebody remembers what I do. That's fine. He goes, okay, I'll walk around my room for 5 or 10 minutes looking for my keys, and they're in my hand.
Wow.
I'm like, that's weird. He goes, I used to be good at math. And I grab him by the collar, and I take him over to Lieutenant Colonel Toombs. Now, Lieutenant Colonel Toombs talks to him, and he takes him away from me. I don't see what happens to him anymore because I've done all I can do. That's what medics can do, is get you to that next level of care.
And little do you know, this is patient 0.
Yeah, so Lieutenant Colonel Toombs gets him up to the Air Force Hospital, puts him in the CT machine. This is like 7:30, 8 o'clock on probably a Tuesday night. And by midnight that night, he's in Launchstuhl, Germany, getting a drill put into the side of his head because he has an intracranial brain bleed for almost 2 weeks.
Wow.
So I didn't know that. There's no way. I just knew something was wrong with him, and let's figure it out because I'm just curious, weird. I told this to a medic friend of mine 5-10 years after I made it back to the States, and he goes, you saved that guy's life. I was like, yeah, probably. Maybe. I don't know. I didn't know at that time. There's no way I would have told you that. Lieutenant Colonel Toombs explained to me what happened with the guy, and I was thankful for that. But we didn't see much of Lieutenant Colonel Toombs the next couple of weeks. I didn't, at least. And I have to prefix this by saying we worked with the Arizona Razorbacks. They had a engineer unit, and they would do route clearance around our little base known as Balad, Iraq, better known as Mortaritaville. We got mortared every day because we were a 5-mile by 10-mile base in the middle of Iraq. This was the quick reaction force for the Air Force. So if you needed weapons on target anywhere in Iraq, they could fire off a F-18 and put them weapons on inside of 10 minutes. And Iraq's the size of Texas, so that's moving.
Yeah.
They got the Ready One right there. So I vividly remember helping put something like 18 staples into a guy's scalp because he split his scalp getting rocked by a roadside bomb. We put the staples on, we covered up real good so we can put his helmet on and go back out on a roll while we smack him on the ass and go get him, Tiger, because we didn't know any better. If you look at football or anything else, you get smacked real good, you go lights out for a second or two, you wake up, go, oh man, my bell got rung. Maybe you'd come off for a play, but you get back in there in the next minute or two, and maybe you're a little wobbly or whatever, but you go right back at it. That was the mindset. That was that was everything. We did what we could to get you back out on the roll, whatever it was, because to a man, the people that are good, the people that want to be out there, they don't want to get off the line. You've got to convince, after later being an infantryman medic, you got to basically sit them down and go, look, man, you're going to be a detriment to your team if you go out today. Let's put somebody else in your seat. You're coming off the line so we can make you better so you can get back out there and do your job.
Yeah.
Because the good ones don't ever want to come off. The good ones want to be at the point. And that's the hardest job in the military, in my take is a medic with infantry guys, because you got to be close enough to them.
Sure.
You've got to be their buddy, close enough to them that you know when they're not feeling good because they had a bad phone call with the girlfriend, or they're limping a little bit because they tweaked their ankle, or they pulled something. You got to be able to look at them and see these things and be close enough that you can look at them and see these things. But at the same time, you have to be detached enough that if something bad happens to that truck and he's blown up and you can't do stuff for him, whether he's alive or barely alive or not going to be alive for very long, I can't help you. I got to be able to crawl over you or step over you to get to the guys that I can help.
Sure.
No matter how close I was to you, that's the line. And it's a very difficult line to find. It's a very difficult line to keep, because you want to be friends with the people and you can't.
And isn't that sort of a stereotype? People get kind of spooked out by medics.
Yeah.
Yeah. We're a weird bunch, because we know what we're signing up for. Okay, we know we're going to be there for the person's worst day. Yeah. But before I get into the medic side, I'm going to jump back
for the MACE test.
test.
Yeah.
So
yeah,
I
please.
take this person to Lieutenant Colonel Toombs. He does the he lets him go. He starts to develop this MACE test. Again, we don't know what the heck it is. We've never seen it before, and it starts off with these 5 wonderful words: apple, elbow, carpet, saddle, bubble. I'm going to read these to you. You say them back to me. Simple. You say them, I say them to you. You say them, I say them to you 3 times. And then we do a head-to-toe assessment. We don't leave anything untouched. And I mean that biblically. Okay, because if you're rocked, maybe your mind ain't getting all the signals. If you got adrenaline, maybe you ain't feeling the pain. And I'm going to press and touch on every part of you. I'm going to, if you owl, I'm going to now tear off the clothes to see what you're owling about, because you may not know. Like, we are going to, if it calls for it, we'll do the oil check right there on the spot. Okay. Because we're medics and we need to make sure you're great. So we go through the whole head to toe assessment. Sometimes takes 15, 20, maybe even 30 minutes. We ask them baseline questions. What day is it? Who's the president? All these kind of stuff at the same time. And we give the guys that are on 24-hour rolls, or maybe they're 36-hour roll, what day is it? They have no clue. And every day's the same in Iraq. And they're like, Saturday, everybody's off, so we know Monday is going to be a bad day. Every day is Monday. It's all terrible. So, it's just, there's no real good way. So we go through all that. And if at the very end we're going to say, hey, what were those 5 words? And they're going to look slack-jawed at it. It's like, oh, apple, bubble, something. And you're like, it's okay, man. Go back to transient housing, your chew, whatever. I want you to get a shower, get a hot meal, get a night's rest. Whether it's daytime, nighttime, get a couple hours rest. You're not allowed to leave this post till you come back and see me. And that's the difference between stapling a person's head up and patting them on the ass and them going out the door, or this one little piece of paper and saying, look, if you come back worse than you are before, we're getting a CT of your head. If you come back worse than you are before, we think something's going on with you, and we're going to figure out what it is. And that's how night and day it changed because of Lieutenant Colonel Toombs and this one piece of paper. I came back in 2008. The St. Louis area used to have this radio show in the morning called Bob and Tom at like 5 in the morning. I'm driving to my job after doing all the stuff that I have. And Bob and Tom are talking about the NFL and how they've got a concussion exam on the sidelines now because they were searching for something just like the Army was. And they go, oh, hey, we got a copy of it right here. And they look at it, and he goes, apple, elbow, carpet, saddle. And they stole it straight from the Army, put it sideline use, and now you can go to a Little League team, at least a couple of years ago, talk to the paramedic or whoever it is that's the medical support for the Little League baseball team or the Little League hockey or the Little League whatever. And you go, hey, you got a concussion exam? They're like, yeah. Does it start with apple, elbow? You're like, how'd you know? So, yes, I don't think Lieutenant Colonel Toombs has seen nearly enough recommendation or
recognition
played for he changed the way we dealt with concussion, and it happened overnight. We went theater-wide, so every clinic, every hospital had this piece of paper in their hand before he left. Before I left, it was in Afghanistan. It was stateside getting baselines, because sometimes, I love my Marines, but you need a baseline for these guys sometimes. So, because we got to make sure they're not degrading over time. But yes.
Well, the Army loves a good acronym, and MACE is a...
MACE was a fan. Yeah.
They definitely love acronyms.
If it was something else, it wouldn't have made it, like you wouldn't have been there. No, but
and it's interesting to me that, and this kind of leads back to our medic conversation.
Yeah.
I don't think a lot of people realize the military is almost always on the cutting edge of medical science.
Absolutely, yes. We went from having a cauterizing pin where I will pull open a wound to get to your artery and hit it with a hot iron and try and get it to close, versus there's a substance that we can inject with a little syringe, and it'll go in there and it'll cauterize the wound for you and pack that wound and make it nice. And
Sure.
Have to improvise to make things happen. So
Exactly.
I still
That's
have
where,
a
that's where
cauterizer.
innovation comes
Yeah.
from.
And we had Israeli cravats back when we were in Iraq, because Israelis have always been doing the war thing for a while.
yeah,
so
they've mastered the war thing for sure.
So they came up with a better way to do a pressure bandage, So there's always new and better things. It's like trying to keep up with computers and technology. There's always a new, better thing right around the corner. And thankfully, the military gets it first. Now, to your point with the medics being a different bunch, we're a weird bunch. Some of us want to go be with infantrymen and be there at the front line, but we're medicine. We have to be, and don't get me wrong, there's a lot of good, smart grunts out there, but we have to be ready to take on the
Critical
extra.
thinking
Yeah,
is hugely important.
so, and like I
For
said,
sure.
I've met some great and some fantastic infantrymen, some smarter than me. I'm not trying to say I'm whatever, but, they go out there thinking, I'm going to kick in doors. I'm going to do that job. And I come in going, I'm going to be there for your worst day. And I've seen children. I've seen women. I almost got the stork on the side of my thing because this woman almost dropped a kid in front of me. And I'm like, get the hell out of here with your ambulance, because they were staying behind us doing route plans. I'm like, no, let them go. Have that baby someplace else. Yeah, the thing, there's just no regular day as a medic, because you never know what's coming over that horizon.
I think this lends itself really, really well to a story that I've heard you tell before.
Sure.
So before you deployed, if I understand correctly, correct me if I'm wrong, Washington University asked you to be part of a study.
Yes.
Tell us about that experience.
So, my little unit out of Jefferson City, we had a small contingent up here in St. Louis, so we didn't have to drive down to Jeff City every month for the 2-day weekend. A representative from WashU came out, and I've always had a lot of respect for WashU. I felt that it's always been a solid school, and nobody's talking to this guy. He's just, because we're going through all the different you got to get an email address, and you got to make sure your will's up to date. Everybody knows we're getting ready to go, and there's so many little boxes you got to check. Well, he's just sitting there at his own little table in our cafeteria-like setup, and I'm like, what do you got going on? Tell me what brings you to our cafeteria. And he goes, we're doing a pre- and post-deployment health assessment gauge for PTSD. I'm like, okay. Well, I'm 26. I ain't seen that much cool stuff yet. This is my first deployment. I'm like, yeah, I'll go. And he's like, we'll bring you free pizza for lunch. I'm like, I really don't care about the pizza. But he's like, yeah, sure, pizza, whatever, and I go in there, and it is an all day. I think I got there at like 9 o'clock in the morning. They let me go at like 6 with pizza in hand. They just run you through all the different tests, and it felt a lot like my childhood going through that. And, see how you do.
Being probed and tested.
Oh, yeah. So it was, you get hooked up to little stuff, and they're, put these boxes together and draw this. And if this side looks like that side, what? So, a lot of different baseline stuff. While in Iraq, I volunteered to stay for an additional tour. So I spent my first 12 months, first 6 or so as a medic. Again, I didn't want anybody to know I was an x-ray tech. And we had 2 x-ray techs. One of them had to go home because his mother had custody of his children, and she was having heart surgery. So, yeah, you got to go, man. You know, and I was not about to let the other x-ray tech be by himself, because it can be a 24-hour job.
Yeah.
So I'm like, I just slowly raise my hand. I was like, I'm also an x-ray tech. They're like, really? I'm like, go look at the paperwork. And they're like, yeah, he's an x-ray tech. Because I didn't let it. I mean, it was really good kept secret.
Yeah.
So I went from being one of their best medics to being their x-ray tech. And I would, you know, when mass casualties or, you know, the chemical things would happen, I'm going to go be a medic again. And if you need an x-ray, you're just going to have to hang out for a minute. It's okay. You're not going anywhere. So with the other x-ray tech, we had the greatest shift there was. One of us would work for 24 hours, and then we would be on call the next 2 days. And then the next day, we'd hand over the radio, because if they called us in at night, we had a radio. We'd hand over the radio to the other guy, and he'd be on for 24 hours, and then he'd have the radio and be on call for the next 2 days. So if you didn't get called in, you'd have 3 days off in a row.
That's nice.
In a place where you arguably got a day off as a medic, I've got 3 days off in a row, because I could go anywhere I wanted to between 8 in the morning and 6 at night, because he's in the clinic during those 2 days. And then I'd have my radio with me from 6 at night till whenever, and nobody calls me in, and I hang out in my room for 3 days or do whatever I want on that third day, because it's 24 hours off.
And he had us thinking he was all altruistic for volunteering to be the second x-ray tech.
He raised his hand for days off.
It would have been 1 day on, 1 day off. So I didn't know what the plan was, and me and him.
But you weren't in the iceberg building anymore, right?
No.
Yeah,
it was great. So, well, I then set up my computer there, so I had games. We had our own little wall AC unit with a remote. Like, I had my own office with all the, you know, and then saw between 5 and 9 patients a day. It's like at one point I had 5 patients by myself as the medic down the hall doing all kinds of work medicine wise. But yeah, so
that was first deployment.
That's first deployment.
Okay.
Second deployment, when I stayed for the second tour, was strictly as a medic, and I joined an infantry unit. Now, Major Williams, I believe his name was. He was the surgeon in charge of that battalion surgeon, and he was collecting medics. So he collected 4 medics from our unit to stay, and our commander was like spitting nails, so mad, because he had one goal, that he was going to go there with all the people and come back with all the people.
Sure.
And he was fighting us to go all the way back home. Like, didn't want us to volunteer to stay. And at a certain point, we had to sit him down and go, look, it's not your job. It's not your call. We want to volunteer. It's our right to volunteer. If you send us home, our pays get screwed up, because if we stay, we make more money after a year.
Sure.
Right.
So, you know, they don't let anybody do that stuff no more. You don't see much deployments much past 9 months.
Oh, yeah, exactly.
Just so that they've got a little buffer before they get to the 12.
22 is pretty unheard of.
Yeah.
That was at the tip of the time frame they needed people like that?
Yeah, so, and everywhere I went, everywhere I went, because our unit had our own large platoon of medics. So first squad was with Alpha Company, and they did convoy security. Second squad was with Bravo Company. They did convoy security. Third squad was with whatever company, and they did convoy security. Me and the 3 other guys came into fourth squad. Fourth squad started off with building them a base of operations for our medicine, for our platoon. It was like a platoon hub, and we could do procedures out of there. We did a lot of continuing education. We taught. We did all the stuff. The bosses had their own little desks, their little offices. And I was basically a foreman for the first 2 months, trying to make this work with the third country nationals and stuff, building out this burnt out building so that it was usable by us. And after that happened, I got forgive the term, there's just no better way to put it, I got pimped out to whoever needed a medic. And every place I went, they just couldn't help themselves but tell us how their medic got hurt or dead and why I'm now there. Because I'm like, that's the story I want to. I'm in this.
If you're bouncing around that much, man, whoa.
It's like, why is this seat all tore up? Well, let me tell you, you know.
He was a great guy.
He was a great guy. Like, we found his pinky and we sent it home. Like, stop telling me this. Please. You know, like, oh, the whole radio rack just fell on him and broke his back. I'm like, stop it. And I've heard so many stories about it. But I will lead this into the scariest day of my military career. So I got handed over to a route clearance mission. The truck in front of me blew up. I rendered aid to the people. The person that was most tore up was the Iraqi translator. And guys got their bell rung. I knew a lot about the MACE test by this point, having helped develop it. I rendered aid. I got them back. They went to the clinic. Nobody died. I would say, unless, you know, concussion, prolonged damage, anybody was in really any life threat. But that was the day I got my combat medic badge. Infantry unit, saw combat. We got blown up. We chased after and went after the people that blew us up. And I rendered aid to the infantrymen that were there. And I got my CMB. Because of my volunteering to stay, because of people saying that I was very cool under fire, I had been a gate medic. Some stuff has happened with, you know, while I was out on the gate, mass casualty events. A lot of the other medics looked up to me. A lot of the other infantrymen saw me as a good luck charm, because when I went out, nobody died. So I don't mind. I got the nickname Doc Holliday because I carried a shotgun, and because my old unit wouldn't let me keep my gun, so I traveled some 100 miles in Iraq with a K-bar on my hip, and that was it. Because my old unit went, and then when I got to this unit, they didn't have any kind of good weapons left, but the shotgun. So I'm like, all right, I'll take a pistol grip Mossberg 500. Is it Geneva Convention that your medics got it? I don't know. So I carried that bad boy, and I carried a non-lethal round in the chamber for crowd control or if a dog got a little too close. But I had other rounds readily available. I was a medic. It wasn't my job to shoot it. And I told my guys, look, this thing's only good from here to there. Don't let anybody get that close to me. I'm here for you guys. I carry 50 pounds of stuff that if something happens to me, none of it's going to get used on me. Some other medic's going to have to come in and help me out. Don't let them get that close. And they treated me like gold. By and large, something would happen. They'll go, Doc, you stay here. We'll bring them to you. And my rapport had gotten to the point where the 1st Cav Division had battle space in northern Iraq, and they needed some medics, and I learned why later, at combat outpost missions. Now, combat outpost missions, they conduct raids into small towns. They conduct small kill teams, ensuring that the curfew is done. If there's a truck on a road after 10 o'clock, they've got the rules of engagement. They can take an anti-tank rocket and blow up that truck on the road. They're not supposed to be there.
Right.
Just, they do a gamut of things, and it's between 14 and 28 guys out in the, like, 100 miles from everybody. There's no base. We had a 2-story building with, you know, HESCO barriers with sand around it.
There's a reason it's called an outpost.
Yeah,
for sure.
We had a Paladin tank, which scared the hell out of me while I was sleeping one time. But there really wasn't, I mean, I felt like we could take on a small battalion between the Mark 19, the battalion. I mean, these guys were well armed and well versed in their stuff. Well, I have to go through and get trained up to kick in doors, to stack up on people, because I'm a medic, you know. Remember, I'm this National Guard guy just down the road. So they give me a different weapon system. They teach me how to stack up. They teach me how to do the doors. We're doing all this. They make me refire the thing. And much like at Fort Sam, there's this picture and a little note and a bronze star and a purple heart all over the walls of this place from the 1st Cav. They're all 1st Cav guys, and they're all, this guy got blown up doing this. And they're all over the walls of this small complex. It's like a college for Iraq, is the large building that we're working out of now. And we get through all these extra little things that, got the right, gear, got the right this, got, the extra training, learning hand signals and all this stuff, just getting hardcore guys. Now we're real medics, really combat medics at this point. Me and this one other guy who was an infantryman before him. That's why he got picked. And I'm like the only pure medic here. And we go up, and our surgeon, battalion surgeon, comes up to us, Major, goes, okay, this is the point of no return. We're about to go sit down with the sergeant major. This is the sergeant major in charge of airspace in northern Iraq. If you don't want to be a part of this, if you don't want to do this, this is the line. You're not going into that office. You're not going to make me look bad. Me and the other guy look at each other like, yeah, we're going to do this, because we're the first two to do these missions. And some of the other guys are like, I want to get out there. I want to do it. It's like, yeah, until you're right at that line, you're like, I don't know, man. But we had it. We had the fortitude. We're like, yes, we want to help. We want to be where we can be. And they only wanted to take one of us medics, but our surgeon was like, no, if you take one medic, you take two, because if our medic gets hurt, we need a medic.
Yeah.
Right.
So I was thankful that he always stood that line. He's like, no, you're going to take two. So we get in the office, and it's Command Sergeant Major Camacho. And it's probably people know him. He's Sergeant Major of 1st Cav, and he's thick Puerto Rican. Like,
great name, by the way.
Great name, but
I like that. Yeah, that's a great.
He is thick Puerto Rican accent, and I'm not going to try and mimic or imitate, but it's hard to follow some, because this ain't his first language. And he's so happy to see us, and so happy that we're there, and we've had some bad luck with some medics, and we
you could
really
see on the wall behind you.
Yeah,
the bad luck.
Yeah, for sure.
And we can
Writing was on the wall, literally.
We can get out there and make some good, and they did. They actually captured some high-level Iraqis in the area. We can do some good out there, and you being there is good for the morale, good for the people. He's like, but before you go, I got to get your picture. Like, no, Sergeant Major.
You don't want to end up on the wall.
You're not getting my picture. And that was the scariest moment. I was like, no, you're going to jinx this, and I am not. So me and the other guy refused to get our pictures taken.
Oh, man.
And that was it. I was not about to let that man have my picture.
Yeah, there's a couple of silhouettes on the wall.
Yeah.
Crayon drawings.
I've been blown up. I've been shot at. I've been, mortars have come in the middle of the night. And that was the scariest moment, was the Sergeant Major going, I'm going to get your picture. I'm like, you're going to see me run. This ain't going to happen.
That's a perfect way to lead back into you coming back from 22 months deployed and sort of being a conundrum for that PTSD test and study.
So while I was there and I volunteered to stay for the second additional tour, I used my time, my money to call Wash U and say, hey, is this going to throw off the curve? Is this going to mess up your study? Because I'm staying for another. And he sits down and he says, well, what have you seen? And I go through I helped pull the sole survivor of a 30-person plane crash.
Oh, wow.
Chemical attack, sniper activity in the area, mortars going off. I went through some of the different crazy stuff that I was seeing, and I can hear him on the other guy just wide. I go, yeah, we want to see you after this. We really do. Because he's like,
mouth watering.
Yeah, he's like, this guy's seen some stuff. All right. Because
sure.
it's a shuffle of the deck, whether or not you actually get a guy that's going to be in the thick of it.
You're like a treasure trove for his scientific study.
So I stay for the next tour. I make it back. I spend 8 months at Fort Dix, New Jersey, in the Warrior Transition Unit, getting some surgery done, getting recovery. It's such a blessing for the National Guard and Reserve that active duty is never going to understand, because if you're in this unit, you're getting paid at the rate that you're supposed to, at your MO, as your rank, to get recovery. And a lot of the guys coming back, the last thing the National Guard and Reserve guys want is to spend any more time in the military. They want to go see their family. They want to go see their friends. They don't want to tear off this uniform and burn it in effigy. And I don't blame any of them for doing that. Mm-hmm. But the minute you sign out and you get that DD-214, they stop paying you as a soldier or whoever, airman, whatever. And now your recovery is on they'll pay for the surgeries and the doctor visits and things like that, but the time is your dime.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Like, I'm still getting paid to be a soldier 24/7. It ain't much, but I'm still getting paid to be here. When you get out, you're out. So I was very thankful for that. So I spent 8 months there. Finally, little long story there, finally make it back to St. Louis. And I get a hold of I'm just happy that they're still a group. You know, sometimes they lose funding or whatever. And 3 years later, it's like, oh, yeah, did you want to see me again?
Remember that pizza?
Yeah, I was kind of looking forward to Domino's today. No, so we set up another visit. I get there at the same time. And unfortunately, I remember a lot of the different tests. So I'm like, I don't know if I'm supposed to remember these, but this is this and that's it. And I'm going through all of this. And the room I'm in is the size of these double tables. There's a little desk in front of me and the guy that's proctoring the exam. It's a closet. Somehow at the end of the whole study, I got a crust of pizza hanging out the side of my mouth when the director of the study comes in. She's in her white lab coat. This guy from the VA in a terrible suit, and somebody from Veterans of Foreign War and the DOD. They're all walking in with the proctor. So there's 4 people, and I'm on the other side of this little table, and there's no room in this thing. And the director of the study goes, the people of this study, the Department of Defense and the Veterans of Foreign War want to know why it is you don't have PTSD. And I'm like, well, Doc, I don't think I've gotten all my baggage yet from overseas. It might still need to show up here. I don't know. Are we really sure I don't have it? Like I
have the CD-ROM.
So yeah, they said I don't have it, and there's things that I hate the word triggered, but there's just no good way of getting around it where you feel the adrenaline push and the hair stands up on the back of your neck, and just speaking about it, I can feel, my arms get goosebumps.
Sure.
I feel the adrenaline. Being in as many adrenaline-filled environments as I have been, I can tell when it's coming on, and I've learned how to control it, and it keeps you from going fight or flight, but gets you that extra. It's that line between I'm more than I was before with the adrenaline, but I don't have tunnel vision. Tunnel vision's where, mama bear can pull the car off of her cub.
Right.
But you can't see somebody coming in with a right cross to your temple because you're so focused on one thing. It's a hard place to stay in between those two things. Well, I've learned how to do that, but the national anthem, I will hide from it. I will stay away from it, and it's one line: rockets, red glare, bombs bursting in air. If I hear those words being sung, I have that adrenaline push. I have it hard. And I always have a bit of a meanness to me because it's usually at a ball game when I can't run away from it, either a hockey game, ball game, whatever.
Sure.
And I'm looking at everybody that's disrespecting the moment by not taking off their hat. And that irritates me. So it's always combined with those. I just have a hatred at that moment for that particular situation. The other big one is Wanted Dead or Alive by
John Bon Jovi.
John Bon Jovi.
Yeah.
Because if they could prove that they shot a medic or a chaplain, they'd get $5,000 cash. So myself and many of the other medics learned how to not carry a backpack. We didn't carry med bags when we were doing little outside the truck things.
So it wasn't so obvious.
Yes. So you'd get back on post dusty as hell, look like everybody else, and you'd see this medic with this big black thing over his arm with a big red cross on it, and you're like, you never leave the base. You're not a combat medic. You're a fobbit.
Sit and duck if you have that out there.
Yes. So you learn that the other people like us, you learn the other medics. Like, I looked like a gunner. I looked like I had extra pouches for, big guns and grenades and stuff because I'd pop out my medical equipment out of these pouches. I could take care of 3 casualties out of the pouches of the front of my vest and feel good about it. And if it was more than that, I would set up a casualty collection point and tell somebody to get my Humvee here, and they'd drive my Humvee there to get my gear out because, again, they treated me like gold, and they understood the situation. So that's why the whole system works well when everybody's on the same page.
I wanted to bring up that study, and, PTSD is a real and scary thing. I think the fact that it wasn't detected from you after you came back from that, extremely long deployment, I think is a testament to the way that you perceive the world around you, but also that those nerves of steel that you have as a medic.
I don't know about nerves of steel. I went to Merrimack, did some college afterwards, and I was taking some honors classes, and it just so happened to be psychology was one of those classes. Because of that, I aced the first test. Again, I was really good at taking tests, and I talked to the instructor, the doctorate, the guy in charge of the class. I was like, "Hey, I want to take this for honors. What do you need me to do? You need me to do some additional work, all this kind of stuff." And he's like, "Yeah." And I'm like, "Do you have any ideas?" And I'm like, "I do. I want to put a correlation between somebody that joins the military and gets out and somebody that goes into the jail. Working in college, I know Weber's developmental chart. The developmental chart says at this age you get love and affection as a child, and that's how you learn love and affection because you're being picked up and coddled. And then you get to the next stage, and you learn friendship, and you learn how to break away. And you get to the next stage, and at like 16, 18, you learn how to stand on your own and be your own person. Well, Weber and Germany, when you're 16 and 18, when he's going through, you were married and having kids, 16 and 18. I wanted to argue that there's another step, that in this day and age, 18 is not the end of that developmental stage. When you go to college, when you start your first job, you start to learn, maybe I don't want to wear the F-U-T to my job.
Yeah.
Because that's probably not the right way to go. That's developmental. That's mental development. Learning how to pay your bills. Learning how to live with somebody. Learning how to get your butt to your places on time because your mama ain't waking you up no more. This is all development. Yeah. And if you join the Army, well, there's drill sergeant there waking you up, getting your butt to the thing. And there's Uncle Sam paying your bills while you're in the barracks. And there's a uniform, so you ain't got to worry about wearing that FU T-shirt. And you're being told what to do, when to do it, how to do it. When you go to jail, you got a CO sitting there going, this is what you're going to do. This is how you're going to do it. And from 18 till the time that you get out, you miss out on that. Now you're 26. And you come back home, and it's expected that you know how to do a job. It's expected you know how to pay bills and live on your own, and you've never done it.
Good point.
You don't get to run home for canned goods and wash your clothes at mom's place like you could when you were going to college.
Sure.
When you're 18, you got that little safety net. 26-year-olds coming out of jail, coming out of the force, don't have that. What do you mean you don't have a place to stay? You're a grown-ass person. You need to figure it out. And I argued that there's PTSD to be had while you're in the military and all these things. And it just doesn't come out the way you think it does. Nobody knows how you're going to respond to it, much like getting your bell rung. Are you going to lose your equilibrium? We don't know. Are you going to remember stuff? We don't know. Are you going to be fine? Quite possibly. We don't know because the brain and how you develop is just so intricate to that specific person. I feel like myself didn't get much PTSD or reacted to it well because I knew what my job was. You put a medic, you put an infantryman, and you put a truck driver next to each other. And we go, medic, you know what you're going to do. And we do these gory little moulage things where we got guns going off and lights flashing. We're trying to give an IV to a mannequin who looks like he's not got any legs. And it's all fake, and it's all fake blood, and it's all that. But our mind's getting used to the idea that this is a day in the life. And you got infantrymen.
Train as you fight.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You got infantrymen running around smoky fields, shooting at the bad guys. And, little miles gear going off because you're shooting at moving things. They get it. They get ingrained in them to shoot at the moving things. And they're going to go do that. And they understand that they're going to shoot back, and they might see their buddy get blown up. They might see this. And they've come to an understanding with it by and large. Now, a lot of infantrymen get PTSD because they got close to this guy and their buddy got blown up.
And also just the onslaught and the multiplicity of events.
Yeah, for sure.
And true, brutalism is hard for most people to wrap their head around. That truck driver, he's got a little bit of training. I think they got like a month of training. It's nothing. Because a lot of the college kids go to be truck drivers to get their, over that one summer, they get basic training truck driver down at Fort Leonard Wood, and they go back to class. And then all of a sudden, Uncle Sam's like, hey, buddy, guess where you're going? I'm going back to school. No, you ain't. So now you're a truck driver, and you're in Iraq, and you're not feeling too good about it. And off the side of the road, there's these kids playing, and you see an adult come up, and they just throw a child in front of your truck. Your job is to keep rolling because that guy's setting up an ambush, and he'll throw a woman or a child in front of your truck, and you got to roll over them. And there ain't no setting up for that. There's no
practice.
Yeah.
No practice for that.
Yeah.
So their minds get affected in a weird way. And those are the guys, the mechanic that was driving something that got blown up, or the mechanic that was in the back that got blown up, or the truck driver, or the supply guy, or I'm not supposed to be outside the wire guy. Those guys are the ones that were just not ready for it. And when their minds see it, when they get into it, a lot of those guys can't leave it.
Yeah. Because
they just were not prepared for it at all.
To no fault of their own.
Well, like I said, you really can't prepare for the brutality that these people brought. We wouldn't throw women and children in front of trucks. They did. I was there getting shot at from a guy that brought children around him on top of a post to shoot at us over these children because he knows if he shot at us, one of our 50 cals would turn on him and blow the side of that hill right off.
Sure.
That's not something, hey, guess what they're going to do? Yeah. We didn't know. They didn't know. Plate charges came out of nowhere. That was to think that your enemy is stupid is the worst way to go into any fight. Yeah. They are very inventive. They're very good at using little to nothing and using it effectively.
They want to win just as badly as we want to win.
Yeah. So those things curbed a lot of people, and there's where PTSD started, and there's where all these other things happened. And I'm glad that we've got MACE tests and stuff, because now we can focus on PTSD and less on concussion, because with both of these, a lot of their different things will come into play. I got a guy that we were training up to go to Afghanistan, and he got he got wrapped up around the waist and dropped on a mat doing combatives. Okay, and it was on a mat. Everything was fine. And he comes up to me the next morning. He's like, I don't feel good. And I was getting looked at because I kept missing some of the check the box moments getting ready for deployment because I kept helping patients. I was the medic with the combat patch. I was the one people came to with medical problems because they know I've seen some stuff. And again, that fostered that clout everywhere that I went. So people knew of me. And so when they had a medical problem, they'd come to me, and the bosses above me, first sergeant's like, no, you get to class. We can't let you miss too many more classes. You get going. I'm like, roger that, first sergeant. And I make it down from the third floor to the first floor. As I get to the doorway, I hear my name echoed down that stairwell. And I got to run back up, everybody getting out. And the first sergeant's like standing there white-faced, sheet-faced. And the guy that was talking to me, he's got 2 people holding him back because he's trying to swing on the first sergeant. And this is the nicest guy on the planet. He got concussed.
Wow.
I got to drive 2 hours with him to the hospital because this guy got his bell rung so bad that he has an altered level of consciousness to the point that he now perceives people as enemies, as people trying to threaten his livelihood and his health. And for whatever reason, he didn't put me in the crosshairs and was willing to talk to me about it. But when the first sergeant's yelling at him to get to class, he about lit him up.
Yeah.
And it's like, yeah, that's concussion. But that can look like PTSD.
Sure.
When it comes to the brain, you cannot go, yes, this is it. This is the cookie cutter thing. We're going to give them this and it's going to get fixed. There's no way to tell you what the chemical in the brain's going to do, what the electronics of the brain's going to do for any given outside threat, outside influence, outside environment. There's just no way of knowing what's going to happen.
So to circle back a little bit about the 8 months that you spent recovering.
Yeah.
So am I hearing you correctly on that 8 months being such a good thing so that some of these things can be worked out in these guys?
Funny story. So our colonel in charge of the medic unit, he was a psychologist for a jail before he went. And because he was at that, he didn't have the same kind of setup where he could only be there for 3 months. He was there the whole time as our company commander. And when we came back, the 5 of us came back, he wanted to know we made it back safe because it was a goal of his to see us come back. And we made it back, and a couple of us were stuck in Fort Dix, New Jersey, because a couple of us got beat up a little bit. And we were trying to convince him that what the military needed to do for people that got back is give an extra $100 in ones to all the male soldiers that make it back, especially around Fort Dix, and have them go up to Jersey and go to a strip club. Because the year to 22 months like myself, the only females we saw was in uniform or had the whole body suit on with the eyes you can only see. And now we're back in the stateside, and there's girls with skirts that it's like, what happened? You know, and they got tube tops and stuff, and it's all about transition. It's all about what you're used to, what you're expected to see, what the expectations are. If you go into work tomorrow and you find out that the boss's boss's boss is embezzling and the whole place is tearing apart, they're shredding papers and stuff and they're all over, you're going to go into a little bit of a shock.
Yeah.
Okay? And it's just, again, I've seen some stuff, but that might be your worst day. Am I going to have a job tomorrow? What am I going to do for my family? Your mind's going to react to that in a way, and nobody can tell you what it's going to look like till you went there. That's one of the reasons why so many medics have looked up to me. That's why so many of the infantrymen and such have looked up to me, because I've got the patch that says I'm going to act right when stuff goes sideways.
Sure.
The phrase that I've seen used about me is I've been the calm, cool center of a chaos shitstorm. Okay, that's me.
Get that on a T-shirt.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
I had a mass casualty event happen where I was a gate medic, and I was the only medic there because we sent 2 out on a roll, and we normally had 2 here, but we were, long story. So I'm by myself at the gate, and we learned that, well, I'm at the gate, and something blows up. Now, the year before, I spent at Mortaritaville. Something blew up. Okay, great. It's like hearing a siren on the other side of the town that you're in. You know, oh, look, there's a siren. If you're in a town that has a lot of sirens, no big deal. If you're in a town that has 1 siren every 3 months, you're like, something's burning. You know, there's just what you're used to. I'm very used to stuff blowing up at this point. And I got this 18-year-old kid with me, and he throws his gear on and runs out the little door and opens the gate for the people that come in. And at the end of my cot is an anti-tank rocket where I'm like, yeah, that's my life right now. If somebody tries to ram the gate, I get to rock around the corner with a rocket and see what happens. But he's running back and forth doing this thing. And it's December and it's cold. And if you didn't know, Iraq gets cold in December. The wind is terrible because there's no trees, so everything just blows right through you. And we're on a doorless shelter with no roof, with the blue tarp sandbagged as a roof, pulling down and tarped over the door as our door. And we've got sandbags holding up the one window so that wind doesn't whip through, and everything's dusty. And I'm reading a book, just plain as can be, because he's got the gate thing, and I'm here in case something goes sideways. I'm reading my book, and we get the boom. And it's a big one because the dust falls from different areas above you, and you're shaking stuff out. I got it in my book. And he's like, what was that? He hasn't been in Mortar Reederville for the last year. I have. I'm like, hey man, something blew up. What do you want from me? Like, I'm seeing the same four walls you are, guy. I don't, He's like, I'm gonna go check that out. I'm like, you do that. I don't want to throw all my gear back on and step out in the cold. I'm pleasantly comfortable right now.
I gotta finish this chapter.
That's right.
I am content is the term I like to use. I'm not mad. I'm not upset. I'm content. Not really happy. I'm just content. So he runs out. Doc, you got to take a look at this. You got to take a look at this. I just roll my eyes. I'm like, really? Do I? Set down my book, put on my gear, walk around the corner, and I've been off this post. Most of the guys on the gate and on the guard towers, that's their 24-hour a day, 7-day-a-week job, is these gates and these guard towers. They get on and off that, but they don't go outside. But I've been on a route clearance mission a couple times, and I know about 2 miles down the road tees, and about a mile up the one way is an Iraqi checkpoint right on the main highway up to Mosul. And I'm following this 500-foot mushroom cloud, following its base down to that crossroad. And I'm like, oh, Iraqis got rocked. So I walk right past that tarp, right back into the building. I take off my jacket, my flak jacket, my bulletproof jacket, my helmet, and take all this stuff. And I pick back up my book. And
where did I leave off?
The guy.
Where did I leave off?
Yeah. And the guy comes in and goes, what are we going to do? What are we going to do? I'm like, whoa. First of all, it's going to take about 5 or 10 minutes for their heads to stop ringing. Then it's going to take 5 or 10 minutes for them to figure out who's injured and who's dead. It's going to take them about 5 or 10 minutes to put people into the cars that are still working, and about 5 or 10 minutes for them to get here. So I got about 30 minutes before I'm going to need to get busy. I'm going to keep my hands warm. And I keep reading. 30 minutes almost to the minute. Radio clicks on, hey, Doc, we need you in the motor pool or in the motor pit or whatever we call it. Yeah. Roger that, on my way. Set it back down, throw on my vest, throw on my helmet, got my gloves going. I'll catch you around, kid, and walk out. Go into the motor pool, start breaking open my bag, and I am at the far end. We got a gate at one end, and the far end is where I'm at. And I got a couple guys looked up to me. They go, hey, we're going to be at the other end in this truck with the mounted gun. It's going to be 3 of us. I'm going to sit in the gun. You don't come down there. Okay? I'm like, I got you. He's doing this because if they're using this as a mask for a secondary attack against us, he doesn't want his medic being at the point of injury. So they're going to check the trucks for bombs and stuff as they come in. And he's not going to let anything get past him. So if they blow up, I don't go down there. Stuff comes to me. So that's why, again, they're treating me like gold. I got about 5 guys with me. I'll never forget this one, man. He's about 6'3", 280. He's a Staten Island corrections officer when he's not in the Army. He's a National Guardsman. He's an infantryman while he's there. And he's got the best last name I've ever heard from a guy looking and acting like he does. His name is Verb. Action word. That's right. Sergeant Verb is with me. And I'm handing out gloves, and I'm making them put their glasses on. They're like, why do we wear glasses? Well, if blood gets in your eye, I don't want it to be HIV to you. He's like, put my glasses on. Okay, good. So they listening to me. I'm handing out scissors and gloves, and first car pulls up, and I can see the guy driving. He's guarding himself. He's driving with one hand. I'm like, okay. I can tell right now something's wrong with his arm or something's wrong with his chest. And he's got a broken arm, and shrapnel came through and hit him in the arm, and I'm handing him over to somebody, wrap his arm. The next person, there's 2 other people in the car with him, and the window's blowing out on the one side, and there are 2 women on the passenger side. And both of them, their faces melted on half their face.
Wow.
So you can just see, it blew up on that side, blew out the glass, melted them. And I'm like, cover their face. Don't put any moisture on it. Just get it covered. Do not let them see any reflective surface. Because they're acting fine right now.
Yeah.
And one of them's in her 20s. She sees this. She's going to go into a level of shock.
Yeah.
And I don't need that because they're talking, they're moving.
Sure.
You know, just cover their eye and their face. Get them to the side. And they take care of it. I got good combat lifesavers with me, and I'm handing out stuff. Take this. Because I don't know what's coming next. And these things are all said and done relatively minor. Everybody's breathing. Everybody's heart's pumping.
Everyone's got their limbs.
Yeah. I can give that to a combat lifesaver, keep it moving. At some point, my commander and the first sergeant showed up. I don't remember any of that. Just more people kept coming in to help. And I kept using the people that I could to use as help. Next guy comes in, and it's a Iraqi truck. The blue side's an Iraqi police truck. There's a guy driving, and a guy sitting behind him. And he steps out, and there's a guy with his feet on the guy behind him with his head, with his back against the board or against the other wall across the back seat because it's like a 4-door S10. And I look in, nobody speaks English. So I'm giving orders and stuff, and these guys don't understand, but everybody else does, and it's great. And I look in at him, and I go, "What's your problem?" And I'm looking between his feet and his knees, and he opens up his hands on both sides, and I can see nothing but stomach from sternum to belt buckle, hip to hip. He's got a hole in his stomach. It's just all there.
Oh.
And I'm like, "Hey, Verb, why don't you get him out of this truck?" And the man,
Verb.
man picks him up like he's a doll, sets him down all gentle-like, and we have something called a big, bulky dressing. And it's this big, folds out 4 different ways, and got a way to wrap around and tie on the back of somebody. And I don't need one of them. I need 2 for this guy because he's got that much open belly. And I'm just like, well, I'm glad everything's staying in. Let's keep it in. I had a clown car ambulance show up. Okay, this ambulance showed up, and I could hear as all these medics are pouring out of this thing. I'm like, where are you going to put any patients? There's like 7 medics out of 1 Humvee. What the heck? And it's an FLA, so it's got the big shell. It felt like forever. Anytime anything's going on like that, adrenaline's pumping and all this kind of stuff, it feels like it's taking forever. So I have already put the guy with his arm splinted, the 2 women with their face kind of packed, we'll say, and this guy with the abdominal pain in the back of an open back Humvee. It looks like a truck. It's got 2 seats up front, and then it's like a truck bed. This female sergeant medic from the clinic, because that's who's got the ambulance, shows up with these 7 damn medics, and she's like, put him in the Humvee. I'm like, no. Put one of your medics back here and get out of here. And they're taking the walking wounded because they're all moving and checking, but this guy's got an abdominal wound. We're like, well, if you want him in the back of that truck, you take him. Fine. Leave a medic here. I'll take him. Your little clown car can go with the other 3 because we don't know what else is coming, but this guy's bad enough. I want to get him gone. And what you don't know, or what she seems to have forgotten, if you've got an abdominal wound and they're comfortable with their knees up and they're sitting and their stuff ain't falling out, you leave them the hell alone. It's like internet. If it's working, don't mess with it, right?
Yeah, for sure.
So I didn't have them on a spine board. I didn't have them on a stretcher. Verb set him in there, yea, gently, like an egg in a basket. And he's fine. And he's got his friend next to him, like holding hands, like, we're going to make it, buddy. I don't know. They're Iraqi. We ain't speaking the same language. But she refused to just leave him in the car. Like, you missed that chapter, didn't you? Okay, I'll take him. I get an IV on him en route on an Iraqi road. Now, that's big for me. That's, touchdown, right? Because the Iraqi roads ain't exactly great. and I'm moving and shaking. And and the little Iraqi guy, as I'm giving him his friend an IV, he's like, yay! I'm like, that's right. So,
I understood that.
yeah, yeah. So at some point we had this, the blue and white igloo cooler, white lid. I had bloody hands from giving him an IV. I got gloves on and all that kind of stuff. I've got him all taped up and stuff, and he's fine. I got IV going. I'm on cloud 9 for this because we're going 35 miles an hour. I'm like, yeah, let's go. And at some point, Sergeant Butler, my driver, hits the brakes a little bit, and I just glance the top of that white cooler with my bloody handprint, and I don't think nothing of it. I get there, and we get a cot underneath the guy, and they move him gently out of the back, and we move him around, and we get him in, and I'm giving a report, like, this guy's got this going on, this is what I've done, I got an IV in the arm, blah, 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 blah. The ambulance pulls up, they throw open the doors. I'm done with my guys, so I start giving a report on these guys because I was there when the treatment started, and I'm like, this guy's got a this, and this. This girl's got a this. This one gets this. This is what we've done. And I'm giving a report to the nurse, and everything's going fine. I don't know how many medics fall out of this clown car of medics, but a bunch. And I go to get back in the back of my truck, get back up to the point, and I got my bag, did my little bag explosion trying to get an IV going on this guy. And Butler's like, if you get up front, we can drive faster, get back to the front gate. And I'm like, hey, Butler, you can get up front, I can be at back, and we can drive just as fast as you want to get back to the gate while I'm back here. He's like, deal. And he took off. I started putting my bag back together, surfing the thing all the way back to the front gate, and I was fine with that. And we made it back. Turns out she didn't leave a medic at the gate, and a couple people made it through. And I talked to the surgeon, the battalion surgeon, about it, and she wasn't allowed back to that front gate for the rest of the time she was there. I was like, this person, not what I used. You can't let her anywhere near us again because I will swing on her probably. That's just not a good way to go. So, but yeah, that's like I said, from the PTSD side, I've seen it. I've seen some weird stuff. I've seen some crazy stuff. The medics are nuts. Like, we know we're going to see this stuff. Pulling the sole survivor of a 30-person plane crash, they helicopter evac'd the guys from the crash site. I had already made it back with my survivor. There was a survivor that made it to the front door, but they called him doing CPR on the back of the ambulance, so he didn't make it inside. My guy had every other long bone of his body broken. So if his humerus was broken on this side, his radius and ulna were broken on the other. If his femur was broken on this side, his tib-fib was broken on the other. And he's speaking not English at me. It turns out he was Turkish. He's a Turkish contractor. And he's talking. Keep talking, buddy. I get him in the back, and we're going across the muddy field and all the craziness that because this plane crash happened because Iraq got fogged in. When you add all that water to it, the mud, it sticks. Yeah. And for 2 weeks, it's foggy like San Francisco.
Yeah.
Okay. And it doesn't dissipate because the hotter it gets, the more fog it gets, and until it all cooks off, you're in fog. I remember seeing the largest chunk of that plane that I saw looked like the shed that you park your lawnmower in your backyard. I didn't see a plane. I saw a bunch of people and a couple chunks of metal here and there. I wasn't paying attention to the plane, but there was fog so heavy that I never saw a propeller. I never saw an engine. I never saw any of this stuff. And this is after it's been cooked off by a lot of flames, judging by the injured.
Yeah.
So me and a couple guys make it back. And the job that you do after something like this is you have to match the manifest. Okay, 30 people were on board, all male. We got to make sure we've got 30 males on the other end. We've accounted for 2, one in the ambulance, one that's getting treatment. Helicopters, Blackhawks, stop at the hospital that I had just dropped off my patient, and we've got lines of medics, Air Force, Army. We're there to help. At this point, we have crew chiefs and stuff pulling body bags off of the helicopters. And we put them on the little 2-wheel thing, and they line them up. And a doctor comes along with a medic on either end, and we unzip the bag, and they verify that that is a male or a female in each bag. That's the job. Now, as a medic on both ends, our job is to rotate the patient as needed.
For identification purposes.
So if they're laying face up, Doc opens up the thing, he looks in there, maybe moves some cloth or whatever, gives a good look, see it, what he needs to see, and we zip up the bag. You don't look in the bag. Nightmares are in that bag.
Yeah.
I know it. My other medics know it. Everybody knows it. You don't look in the bag. Docs have to. They get paid a lot more than I do to look at nightmares. I don't. So one of them, Porter, he's a redhead, palest person you ever saw. Yeah, Irishman. Porter is there. He's a little younger than me. He's a good kid. And we're doing this. And we've been on standby since 9. We got out there. We got back. Now it's like 1,300, maybe a little later. And he's kind of a big kid. I was a pretty big kid at the time. And I was like, man, I'm hungry for lunch. Like, yeah. It's like, what do you feel? He asked me, what do you feel like eating? I was like, not barbecue. We ain't doing, I don't feel like having turkey either, just because Turkish contractors.
Yeah.
This is the strangeness.
This is the dark humor.
That's the dark humor
that
for
comes
sure.
with being a medic. And both of us, it was barely funny at the time because it's like, yeah, I don't want barbecue either. You had a good call on that one.
Yeah, for sure.
So, yeah, that's the strangeness and weirdness that is medics in the military. And let me add one other thing. A regular medic in the military has the best job in the world. Regular medic. Because that person, 90% of the time, the person coming through that door is the top 10% and physically fit, emotionally somewhat stable, we'll say, from the medical, but their organs are working right. We don't have to worry about if they've got COPD or some sickle cell or some HIV or something. What they're presenting with is 90% of the time what the problem is. We don't have to worry about underlying things.
Sure.
More often than not, we're clean, so we're not on drugs or this or that. We have a healthy individual coming through the door. Let's help them with their problem. And that makes being a medic a great and easy and wonderful job because, he's poked in his side by a bullet or a knife, or he's got blown up, or he's sick, or he's whatever. They're showing up with what it is. There's no great mystery 90% of the time. Mm-hmm. There is that other 10%, and sometimes you're working with civilians, and sometimes you're working with kids out there on the side of a road that got burned by this or that, and that's the bad days. Sure. And then the worst days are when you're working at a gate, and there's a kid that's burned on 70% of your body, and your job is to tell him to go away. Because he wasn't burned by us. He wasn't burned by them. He just got burned by a cooking fire. It's not our job to fix everybody, just the ones hurt by us or them. Yeah. Wow. And I'm going to send you to a facility that has 20% of our supplies and maybe 50% of our knowledge. And your chance of survival is going to drop 75% in the process. But that's also my job. I got to tell you to go.
A hard job.
Yes.
We'll have to have Munro on again because we didn't talk at all about the 82nd, which is
we've already got part 1 and 2 here.
That's right.
I'm so sorry, fellas.
Part 3. We know where you got it from. We got it from your dad.
Oh yeah.
No, but I mean, great content.
Yeah.
Is there anything you guys want to talk about before we leave?
Not for me. It just Munro is a good friend of mine. He is a role model of mine. I really appreciate and am grateful to know him and to have him as part of my life.
This guy, he asks me to come pin on his sergeant rank, right? And I'm like, cool. I feel honored to pin it on him. As a specialist, now a sergeant, I couldn't be happier about it. And I'm thinking, all right, this is cool. I can talk a little bit about him and how he's going to make a great sergeant. And, he's fellow from St. Louis area. It's going to be great. No, he gets up there and starts prattling on about me till almost I'm crying, talking about how I'm such a good sergeant and role model. I'm like, stop it. You talk too much. And I'm like, dang it. Like, I'm almost crying during his little speech. I was like, this is your day and you're talking about me. Stop it. So
No, it was my honor.
Oh, it was supposed to be my honor, you pain in the... So anyway.
I still want to see that Vietnam medal.
Yeah, it's a little red box. I've got 3 of them now, so it's...
All right, guys. We're going to cut it off.
All right.
Operation Insight is brought to you by the Mid-America Veterans Museum. Do you like our podcast? With your support, we'll continue to bring you great programming. If you'd like to donate, go to mavm.org and click on Donate.